Okay, hopefully second time is a charm. Hey everyone, I am Sam Haymart, and this is Growing Older Gay's Kitchen Table, episode 44 for the 2nd of February 2026. Kitchen Table is our weekly sit down where I share with you what's going on at my kitchen table, as well as the kitchen table around the LGBTQ plus fishbowl in which I find myself. You are getting a bonus episode today. This is our second and complete recording. Take one for a full hour this morning had to be redone because we had some audio problems that just could not be fixed in that recording. So here we are again. Hopefully it's fixed. We'll find out soon enough. Before we get started, we always touch in with our daily meme, which is something that's posted daily on our social media. That's all four food groups: Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. We don't do the X because X is just wrong on so many levels. And in addition to the daily meme, we have a lot of other fun stuff, as well as prompts for our latest content, including this podcast, which can now be found on virtually any place you get a podcast, in addition to our YouTube channel. So the daily meme today simply says this: the more we practice empathy, the better we get at it. And this is a quote that I actually pulled from the current standing Mr. International Leather, Rene Hébert. Handsome guy, but he's extremely smart, very insightful. He was on a podcast called Throwing Light by Louis Tolliver Jr., another podcast I highly recommend because not only is the guy sexy AF, but he's got a good heart and he really digs into community, and he does a lot of leather stuff just as I do. So Renee was on this episode and they talked a lot about this idea of practicing empathy. And the reason we have to practice empathy is because for many of us, it is sort of a baseline. It is sort of an instinctive thing that we are programmed with. Maybe we were brought up in an empathetic household or a culture. Maybe it was a religion. A lot of us are not, right? I'm somebody who didn't necessarily have empathy for very many people that didn't look like me, talk like me, think like me, act like me in a different part of my life. I've had to learn it. I've always felt it, but I pushed that down when I thought it was wrong. Empathy is simply the act of caring about other people, not just doing things that show you care about other people, but genuinely having concern and care for the well-being of other people and their plight in life. And ways that we can practice it, because practice makes perfect. Practice is something that helps us to get better when we need it. And even the people that I know who are just born empaths still have to practice it. I have to practice it. Listening without judgment is one of the ways that we can practice empathy. Observing nonverbal cues. And so when I'm trying to listen to somebody tell me their story, tell me their opinion, where they're coming from, I'm really trying to read the whole picture, because that can tell you a lot. If somebody's not confident, if they're acting like they're scared, if they're nervous, if they're upset. I've had people share experiences and they're shaking like a leaf, which tells me that they've got a lot of trauma around that and that I ought to really understand that. And so there's things like that you can do in the way you listen to people. Observe more than just what they're saying, and try to shut off your own perceived notions when they're talking to you, and listen to them with an open heart. Putting yourself in other people's shoes. Try to learn about people different from you. As I said at the outset, there was a time in my life where if you didn't believe like I did, if you didn't live in the same neighborhood I did, and on down the list, you were just wrong, right? I was brought up in a pretty conservative, good boys network kind of a place. And I had to unlearn a lot of that. I just had to unlearn a lot of that, because what I've discovered in life is that we do need to understand other people to be fully engaged with our community and be of use, right? If we're just, living in this one way, one track world, and everything else, everybody else that's not just like us is wrong, well, that's what we get when we have Fox News and the whole genre of people who are out there attacking half the world that they don't understand, that they don't know, that they don't like, that they have been trained to believe is out to get them, because they have not taken the effort to understand, to get to know, to put themselves in other people's shoes. And I'm not trying to beat people down, but what I'm saying is, from my own experience being that person at one point in my life, empathy doesn't necessarily come automatically. Sometimes we have to practice it. Part of that is developing self-awareness as well, right? I need to be aware of the fact that I have privilege. I'm a cis white guy. There was a time if you had told me that I had white privilege, I would have really thought about putting a fist in your face because I took offense at that. Who the hell are you to tell me I have white privilege? Well, what I've come to learn is I do. That doesn't make me a bad person, but it sort of rhymes with another meme that was on our social media this week. If you have privilege, you need to go more than halfway to meet them on common ground. And what that's saying is if you're way up on a perch, if you're wealthy, if you have social privilege, if you have racial, any kind of cultural privilege, and it doesn't have to mean your skin color. It can mean, you've been brought up in this place where you've always been the rock star and you don't know what another person might be feeling who's not one. Going 50% of the way to meet them on common ground may not be far enough. You might have to go further. When you're on a high perch, sometimes you have to work harder at finding that common ground with people and being empathetic. And that's why we need practice. But the way we do that is we identify and question our biases. There was that time when I didn't even understand that I had biases. I just thought the way I believed was right and everybody else was wrong. Did I think that was a bias? No, I was just living in the right path. Everybody else wasn't. And a lot of us do that. A lot of us have blind spots to that. If you don't know what a blind spot is, if you don't know what a bias is, if you don't think you have those, that is your first clue that you do. Empathy is something that we have to practice because empathy is a quality, it is a character asset, but it is also a way of living that enables us to be of service to our community, to be of service to people other than ourselves, and to help other people who may not be just like us feel included and part of our community when they deserve that. Let me change the channel and check in just a little bit. Test Driven TV is my other YouTube channel and online digital creation network that has been around for a little over a decade now. It's been my career, automotive journalist, and I bring it up today because I tested this week a really nice car that I think some of the car gays out there might really be interested in checking out. That is the 2026 Dodge Charger Scat Pack. This has the new 6-pack inline-six twin-turbo engine in it. This car is also available as an EV, an electric, but now available with a gasoline engine. And this MF is fast. It is bold, it's muscular, it's colorful. This is a traditional muscle car in almost every sense of the word. And if this is the kind of car that turns you on, I highly recommend you see my entire test drive review at testdriventv.com. Test Driven TV on YouTube, there is a link down in the show notes. I also point this out because I want to talk about clothing and apparel for just a minute. I bought some new threads for my standing in on this episode. A nice pair of khaki pants, a nice navy Henley with tan accent stitching, and a very nice pair of Italian shoes that have a blue denim and a tan leather mixture and a little bit of tan stitching. So I felt like I was really sharpened up for this, but yet brand new clothes, new threads, they complement me. And even though I'm a little bit of a thicker guy, they actually flatter my figure just a little bit because they are loose fitting enough, but not baggy. And I'm really happy with the way I look. I've even got some comments on the YouTube channel about particularly the shoes. The gays love the shoes. I bring this up because my husband and I, since we've been together, have always had this little bit of a push and pull over what I should be wearing when I'm presenting on video. And he's a person that comes a little bit more from a preppy sort of template when it comes to his dress. He wears a shirt and tie. He tucks his shirt in at all times. He wears a belt. And that's how he goes through the world. He dresses nice and he looks sharp. He's 17 years younger than I am. He comes from a completely different cultural experience than I do. And because of that, we have two different ideas of what is normal, proper, what is dressing up, what is being professional in our dress. And so it's just been an interesting dynamic as we have been together. And so I'm proud of, look at me, I've dressed up and I'm a little bit nicer. And he's still looking at me like, that shirt's not tucked in. There's no collar on that shirt. And we've had conversation where, he wanted to dress me for my videos, and I'm like, I'm not wearing that. So I just bring that up because I just wonder if there's any other couples out there that have that experience where you do come from different backgrounds, different eras maybe, and you have those conversations. It's part of that empathy thing. I have come around to try to understand him and where he comes from and why he thinks he needs to dress nice. He hasn't necessarily come around to my side of it yet. I think he needs to get in my shoes a little more. Anyway, I love my husband. I'm just sort of doing this tongue in cheek. The next part of checking in, I had an experience this week that really sort of illustrated to me my weakness and my fears a little bit. I went to a dermatologist for the very first time. I'm 56. I have this little growth on my arm that I've been concerned about. So my doctor says, yeah, let's get you to a dermatologist and have that looked at. So I go to this dermatologist, never seen him before, I've never been to one. And this guy walks in and he's kind of sharp. He's kind of slick. He sort of comes off like a car salesman just a little bit. He looks at my little bump on my arm that I'm concerned about, and he just kind of brushes it off. Oh, no, I wouldn't worry about that. That's nothing big. I wouldn't worry about that. But, if you want to get it biopsied, he explains the whole biopsy procedure and how difficult and not very fun that sounds. And I kind of went, okay, well, if you're not concerned about it, okay. Then he goes, but before you leave, can I have a look at your head and your arms and your hands? And so he looks me over and he starts looking at my head really closely, and you get this concerned look on his face. And he says, you have actinic keratosis spots. You have some precancer spots on your head that I think we ought to freeze off. And he started going on about what this was, that they're just these different patches of skin that have a different texture. They have a different hardness. But he's looking me over and he's touching me, and I'm immediately putting up the guards, right? I'm going, wait, what? What are you talking about? I had this sensation. This suddenly brought me back to, I'm taking my car into the dealership for an oil change, and suddenly they want to do a brake job, they want to have the valves adjusted, they want to do a transmission service, they want to do all these things, and here's a laundry list of all the stuff we want to make money on you with. And I was immediately shifting into that defense mode there. I was getting scared. I was getting overwhelmed. I had deer in headlights as he's going on about, oh, you have, maybe we should get you a different moisturizer that works better, and we really ought to look at those spots on your head. I see 3. We can freeze those off right now. And then I was asking questions going, well wait, but I was just blubbering, and I was scared, and I bolted. My anxiety, my fear got the best of me. And I just said, you know what? This all sounds wonderful, Mr. Salesman, but I think I'm going to go home and think about it. I left having nothing done, no biopsy, no nothing. And he wrote down the terminology of actinic keratosis on a piece of paper and sent me on my way. Before I even got to the car, I was feeling weak. I was feeling defeated, like a completely just chickened out. And I was totally feeling it. It was already hitting me going, Sam, you've got an expert that was just, you went there, right? You went there to get help, and you're running out of here like a scared little chicken. So I got home, I researched this a little bit, and I inspected myself and found out that, in fact, yeah, I have some spots on my head that are of concern, and I ought to have those taken care of. I just thought I'd share this experience because I'm going to be going back next month. I scheduled a follow-up appointment to go get this dealt with and to have that other little spot I'm concerned about biopsied, whether it sounds fun or not. And I'll let you know how that turns out, and maybe we'll do a spot on this particular condition if it's newsworthy at that point, because a lot of us in my age group, and when we age, we start to experience these things, both men and women. Fair-skinned men such as myself who have less hair upstairs tend to be more susceptible to that because we get sun more often up there. And that's essentially what brings this to us. So it was just a nice educational experience about my psyche. I got faced with the fact that I still need to do better. So I want to shift gears and talk about some good news out there, because we live in a world right now. If you watch the news, everything's crappy. Shit show 2025 was really bad. Shit show 2026 isn't any better. In fact, so far it's starting out almost worst in every way. But we have some good news. The city of San Antonio is replacing the now banned rainbow crosswalks in the Pride Cultural Heritage District with new rainbow sidewalks. Yeah. 6-foot wide rainbow flag striping spans the entire length of Main Street in the gay strip, both sides of the street. And at the corners, They have chevron designs which mimic the Progress Pride flag as you get to the crosswalks. The city is picking up the entire $170,000 tab, and this is their strategy to get around the state and federal legal and policy attacks that started last year that made them get rid of their rainbow crosswalks because of little rules and technicalities that they could use to force the cities to get rid of these. The city owns the sidewalks. The city can do anything they want with their sidewalks, and the city of San Antonio is coloring it up. I think this is wonderful. Honestly, it brought a tear to my eye when I saw this story. It just brought me joy to see that we gays, we in the LGBTQ plus community are resilient. We are strategic. We can find ways to get out from under the thumb of oppression because we've been doing it since we've existed. I'm proud of you, San Antonio, and I hope to see much more of this as we go forward. But since we talked about the Progress Pride flag, which has the chevron on the flag with the trans colors, I want to get back on my soapbox a little bit because transphobia in the LGBTQ plus community is still alive and well. I have seen comments on our social media by people that still say something like, well, the T doesn't need to be there. That's played out. It's done. There is still, even in our community, a lot of trans people who are othered. There are a lot of trans people who are excluded. There are a lot of trans people who are banned in our own community. In our own community, there are still a lot of people that have attitudes towards trans people that they're not part of our community or they don't deserve to be included somehow or in some way, or that they're still the other. And that has got to stop. I sat and I listened to a person who's part of our gay community who was going on about how angry and resentful they are at trans people for living out loud the way they are, for asking for all of the rights and equalities that they are, because them being so out front and pushing the envelope with themselves has brought on all of the hate and anger and the retribution that the entire community is getting now. They were essentially blaming trans people for all of the backlash that we're all facing right now. And if I had been in a different circumstance, in a different setting, and if the situation were a little different, I would have really let into them. And I intend to have a talk with them about this later when I have the opportunity. Maybe if they're watching or listening now, they'll get the idea. But I found it upsetting. But it's not uncommon. This is a sentiment that I've heard, particularly among cis gay men that are my age or older, that are from the old school, as it were, that trans people somehow are not part of our community. And here's where I come from on this. Almost all of us in the gay community have at one point in our lives, either in a big way or a small way, been othered. We have all been discriminated against. We've all been judged. We've been made fun of. We've been excluded. We have been put down. We've been bullied. All of us, almost all of us in some way, shape, or form, have suffered consequences or challenges as a result of who we are. Why in the hell would we do that to anyone? Why would we do that? Why would we put other people through what we've had to endure? No matter who they are, whether it's cultural, racial, or about sex. But as a general rule, that you would treat people in a way that otherwise excludes or makes them feel less than because of who they are, I find that appalling. And so, yeah, I'm on a soapbox. There's absolutely no place for that kind of treatment for our transgender brothers and sisters. They are part of our community. They are in the boat with us. It is our duty, even if we are cis gay, be it man or woman, if we are not anywhere in between on the spectrum, it is our duty to love them, to have empathy for them, to understand them. And if you don't, get to know some of them, understand where they're coming from, and listen to what they have to say. You might find that you have a lot more in common with them than you think. So I've been on a tear. But I promise you at this point in the game, my soapboxing is over for the rest of the episode, but we are going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about leather season, some events, and your comments. All right, we're back. If you're still here, let's talk about leather and cigars. So leather season is upon us. If you're watching me on YouTube right now, you can see I'm wearing my full dress Mr. S leather shirt with red piping, my red leather tie. If you're listening to us, you might be able to hear the leather squeaking, and you've been wondering what the hell that is. That's what it is. I am dressed in my full leather because I love the leather community. And part of the leather community, part of the DNA of the leather fetish genre is the cigar. And we talked about a cigar event last week, which is an entire weekend in Palm Springs where it's a weekend built around cigars, leathermen in play, and having a good time. If some of you out there are asking, what's with the cigar thing? If maybe you're not in the leather community or you don't understand why it's part of the leather community, it's just been part of the DNA since day one. Some of it goes back to the biker club startings of the leather community in the gay sense. You know, smoking was pretty popular up until about the 80s and 90s as a rule. Now that cigarettes have mostly gone away, cigar smoking has come back as sort of a cultural piece. It has come back as sort of a ritualistic part of the leather community. If you go to any leather bar, in most cases, you will find gentlemen smoking cigars outdoors. And if you get further into the dom-sub dynamic relationships, cigar play is often included in that. Not getting into that today. I'm just saying that's part of a deeper part of that area of the leather and fetish community. But in general, it's part of the pictures. It's part of the art. Tom of Finland art, which dates way back into the 60s. And if you look at that, the cigar is almost ubiquitous. And so the question becomes, is it art imitating life or life imitating art? I would tell you a little bit of both. I have come to love a cigar. Now, I used to smoke cigarettes for 20 years. I quit 20 years ago, but I have come to enjoy a cigar for social outings and occasions in the leather community because it presents a nice social construct to hang out with other guys. And I'm a little bit of a connoisseur, at least I'm growing into one. I have my tastes and my likes around cigars, and everybody does. And we discuss those things, and it's sexy for many of us. Now, there are many in the gay community that just don't like the taste and smell, and they tend to stay away from us. But if you are part of the leather community and you want to go out and start macking with some guy you see that you think is sexy, be prepared that he might taste like a cigar or smell like one. So let's get to the event that this conversation has led up to. I want to talk about Smokeout 2026 in Las Vegas, April 1st through the 6th. This is an event that, as self-described by their website, is a fun-filled, uncomplicated weekend in Las Vegas for cigar and pipe studs, leathermen, bikers, and friends from all over the world, with time to gamble, shop, be a tourist, enjoy a show, attend events, or just relax at the pool and have fun. This is actually an event that it's a long event, Wednesday through Monday, and it's at the Tuscany Suites Resort and Casino. There are special room rates if you're registered. There's vendors, a smoking lounge every day of the week, private pool and playroom spaces, if you know what I'm saying. You get where I'm going there? Barbershop and boot black, dinners and socials. There's outings all over town for different nights of the week. There's show tickets, things like that. There is a motorcycle ride off-site because maybe you actually have a motorcycle and you're going to go riding. They actually have an organized ride. So think about that. You can register right now on their website. It's $60, $80 at the door if you wait until you get there. I will tell you that most of the men you will find at this event are going to be the rugged, blue-collar, leather, bare, big type of burly guys. And if you meet them in the play spaces, be prepared to come out of there smelling like a cigar. Yeah. So check it out, LasVegasSmokeout.com. The On Guard Salon in past events has been there on site shooting their episode for their YouTube channel, and it just looks like a lot of fun. So check it out. Now I have an event save the date. I don't have the full information because it's not on their website either yet. That is No Kings 3. If you've heard of No Kings, you know what it's about. If you know, you know. Chances are you do. March 28th, you can go to their website, nokings.org, to find out all about it. They don't have full information up yet, but save the date. March 28th is the next big No Kings March. Probably in almost any big community across the United States. We have had plenty of fuel, plenty of events, plenty of shit show 2026 thus far to make us want to get out and let our voices be heard. I imagine by the 28th of March, there's going to be even more that's going to have happened that we need to push back on and let the powers be know that we are not on board. It's up to us. It is up to us to change the world that we live in. It is up to us to fix the world that we live in. And until we have an election, we don't have a lot of power to do very much, but to have our voices heard. And this is the opportunity to do that. So check that out if you are so moved. And as always, you can click on our events tab at our website, growingoldergay.com, for LGBTQ plus gatherings nationwide all year long. Sometimes there's even international ones, Darklands, for instance. Folsom Europe is on there. If you have an event that you'd like to see featured either on our calendar or have me talk about it right here on our episode, send me an email, sam@growingoldergay.com, sam@growingoldergay.com. That is my name and our website, sam@growingoldergay.com. Do I need to repeat it again? Probably not. So now I want to get to our viewer comment of the week. And this goes back to our last week's episode. And this person said, I agree with you about Tesla. Context. I'm revisiting this because I feel like I need to clarify and maybe even offer an apology. In this episode, I went off on a little bit of a tangent expressing that I tend to judge people who drive Teslas as being assholes. Okay? So first of all, I was being tongue-in-cheek. I was being half sarcastic, but half truthful. It started with, I look out my window and my neighbor just got a brand new Cybertruck. He just bought it, right? And so when I see somebody that just got a new Tesla, I think, do they not know who runs the company? Do they not know what that person is and what they're about? And if they do, they're an asshole. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with that. I have to tell you that I have a lot of dear friends who I love very much who own Teslas, who've loved their cars, most of which bought their cars before we found out what a nut job the guy who runs the company is. Many of them have gotten rid of their Teslas since then. They are not bad people because they drive a Tesla. If they still have their car, maybe they can't get rid of it. Maybe it doesn't rise to the level of making a bad financial decision because they're good cars. They actually are. I just want to clarify that I don't think everyone who drives one is an asshole. But if you just bought one in the last year or so and you did it knowing who the owner of the company is and what he stands for and what he does to our world, don't be too surprised when you get stink eye from people driving down the street. And so that is it for our episode today. If you've made it this far, I apologize for the fact that my voice has been trash this entire episode for two reasons. I have been sick all week, and so I feel like I have steel wool in my throat, but also this is the second time I've gone through this entire thing today. So at least I hope it made the episode better in that way. Our website, growingoldergay.com, you can see all of our content there in addition to our weekly podcast. You can follow us on all of our social media channels, which are Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and the Blue Sky. We don't do the X because of a lot of the things we just talked about. You can get our podcast anywhere that you find a podcast now, including Amazon and iHeart, in addition to all the rest. And best of all, you can find us on YouTube where you can see what I'm wearing because I always dress up for you. I love you. I want you to be impressed. And even though my husband doesn't think I dress up nice enough, at least today he should be happy with how I look. So if you are on YouTube, right to my left, your right, you can click on our latest episode. You can also click down below and subscribe to our channel. If you're on the podcast, subscribe there too, please. Leave a good review. Either way, stay tuned.